Hey guys, welcome to the studio, to the A studio. It's still a mess. I still want to fully construct it, but unfortunately still not possible. Of course, due to that virus situation, I can't go to the DIY store, buy anything, build anything. This room still needs to be fully acoustically treated and turned into a full studio. So let's hope for everyone on this planet, because now a month into this crisis, I think everyone just hates it. Let's hope this will be over very soon and we'll all be back to normal, doing our jobs, making music and like advancing and not worrying that much. And since a lot of people are at the moment actually using their home studios, either because they're always using a home studio or because they can't reach their actual studio, I actually asked you to send me like photos of your studio to share on this channel to everyone else, what everyone else's studio looks like. Was highly interesting, a lot of very inspirational studios. If you've missed that, I'll link it down below and also up there. But there's like one thing, like one huge mistake that I saw in way too many pictures that really triggers me, because you're paying a lot to make your studio worse. And that one thing I was talking about is, of course, that black acoustic foam. I see it in way too many studios. It's really bad for most cases, for most scenarios, especially for music producers. I have a little of it here in the studio, but the reason why I have it and when actually to use it, when not to use it, I'll try and explain everything in this video. Fighting. So would you follow me, follow me? First of all, let's start with the very basics. Why people actually use that foam, or why they think they should use it, why they see it somewhere else and then also use it, why there are a lot of rumors about it actually helping. A lot of people say egg, how do you say, like the egg cratons, like where you put your eggs in, they might help, and it might like be intuitive to think that it helps because it has the shape and it breaks frequencies hitting it, but that's not actually how it works. So let's start with the very basics, how frequencies actually behave. And I always love to compare it with taking a swimming pool. It's three-dimensional, all of the water in there, and now just think about throwing one heavy ball of metal this size right in there, and it creates ripples a lot, like going in all directions, hitting the walls, bouncing back, these waves canceling each other out, adding on top of each other depending on the dimensions of the pool, of the wave that is created, depending on the size of the object you throw in there and the weight of it. And frequencies, like there's not just one frequency, it's not just one ball you throw into the pool. Think about 20,000 balls with different sizes, different weights thrown into a pool, and all of the waves and ripples they create and how they interact with each other. It's crazy. There's a lot going on. It's a huge mess. And yes, you can calculate how frequencies behave in a room depending on the room's size, shape, the material that was used to build the room. But at the end, it's way more predictable and precise to actually measure it. And a lot of people think all they need to do is to cut the reverb, because that's what we hear. That's the most obvious. If you clap into your hands and you hear a reverb, that's usually bad. So using that foam can get rid of that reverb that you hear, but it's way too thin. That black foam stuff, usually it's offered in like an inch or something like that. It doesn't really help you absorb all of the frequencies. It just absorbs the very high frequencies and leaves all of the lower frequencies unchanged. It doesn't do anything to them. 100 hertz goes through the black foam, through the door, into the hallway, and like goes on for quite a while. And like 20 or 30 hertz, it goes through almost everything. So again, if you use a lot of that black foam in your studio, there's just one thing that will happen. The room acoustic in your room will get worse. You spend a lot of money. That black foam is usually highly overpriced, especially if you buy it on a website that is for music producers. It just handles the very high frequencies. So using it in a vocal booth to some extent might be all right, but I mean, even my vocal booth down here, it only has the black foam around the window, and that is just to cover the drywall that is behind it. And behind that drywall, I mean, you can see how thick that window actually is. It's like almost half a meter of absorbing material. Because if you would like cover this entire room just in that black foam stuff, the voice would sound really strange. It would sound very dry and clean in the upper frequencies. And the low frequencies, again, would be really messy with a lot of like interfering frequencies, a lot of like gains in frequencies, and a lot of drops in frequencies because they're overlapping and just bouncing back and forth. Again, lower frequencies. And depending on the thickness of the black foam, anything below 1K, it just goes through it. And also, for example, here in the B Studio, the door has the black foam on top, but it's just to counteract. Like this door, what is it? Like maybe 3-4 centimeters thick. It's wood. And the black foam, all of the frequencies that would be reflected by this door are being cancelled by the foam on both sides. So the low frequencies go through the foam, through the wood anyways, and into the hallway. The higher frequencies that might be reflected by the door are being cancelled. So in this kind of situation, it's kind of alright. It also helps to seal the door, and it also helps to cover the door because it didn't look that nice. So there's actually almost no situation where the black foam is your best option. It's also never the cheapest option. It will leave you with a room where the top frequencies are covered, which is fairly easy to do because any material does absorb the high frequencies, but it leaves the low end, the one that is the most troublesome in any kind of room, like unaltered at all. Like everything just is the same mess. At the end, you end up with a room that sounds worse than not treating it at all. So whenever you see that stuff in a studio, it's probably not the most pro approach to making a studio sound good. And I learned it the hard way because my very, very first home studio, I got a budget of 250 euros and I just bought that black stuff, put it all over and clapped my hand and I was like, yes, this sounds so good. But it muffles the sound in the room and makes it very unnatural, very, very unnatural. And again, the bass is just a huge, huge mess. It makes it even worse. So all of my productions in that room sucked because I just couldn't hear what I was doing. So now you might ask yourself, okay, I got it. Black stuff is bad. It's too expensive. It doesn't do a whole lot. What should I do instead? And the most professional, luckily, is also the least expensive method, but it involves a little bit of work. For example, this back wall right there is half a meter of absorbing material. The absorbing material used is, I don't know what it's called, like, I think, because in Germany it's made by a company called Rockwool, and that's what we use. Okay, in English it's the same, it's Rockwool. You just use that stuff, the cheapest you can get. There are like packages with sheets in there, like usually this size, and they are actually meant for sound isolation at home. So you put it in between your drywalls so that you can't hear what anyone else is doing on the other side. The thicker, the more you have, the more it's isolating. But the most important part is it's absorbing. And half a meter of it actually makes sure that frequencies that go even very low, up to like 30-40 hertz, are going in there and never coming back. Because at the end, your main goal is to have the most direct sound of your speakers. You want to hear what your speakers are producing. If the room is changing that, you're actually paying a lot for speakers that you can't hear properly. So making sure that a sound doesn't reflect any kind of frequency at least as possible, and the reverb time as short as possible, you will actually be able to hear what your speakers are doing, and this will help you a lot producing music because you don't have to guess anymore. So get that absorbing material. At the back we did it in a professional way. We built a frame and put it in there and covered it. Right here, these white ones, these are actually IKEA bookshelves filled with that material and then covered. I'll link like a video down below how I actually built them. I think the big blue ones are the last ones that I built. And for the same price you pay for the black stuff, you can build one of these. And they really highly absorb. I mean, you can hear my voice like talking into this. My voice goes in there and nothing comes back. It's just my voice. And I know there are a lot of companies that make acoustic foam, especially made for studios, and they call them broadband corner absorbers. They're made of the same material. They don't do a whole lot. They call them broadband absorbers, and they just go down to like 500 hertz. And especially if you make electronic music, pop music, urban music, you want to be able to hear up to like 50 hertz, because kick and bass is the hardest to make really good. And if you can't hear it, it's a lot harder to actually get it right. So before you spend any money on black foam, or if you have already black foam in your studio, try to replace it by rock wool absorbing material. Either build it into a frame if you have the space, build it into a bookshelf if you need to have it in like a mobile version that you can take with you if the studio doesn't belong to you. If you're in a home studio setup, you can build like smaller frames. There are a lot of DIY tutorials on YouTube how to build these acoustic panels. Just make sure that they're like at least like 7-8 centimeters thick. The thicker, the better, the bigger the air gap behind them, the better, because unfortunately absorption is all about getting a lot of material into a room. There's almost no other option. So that's basically it. I hope this helped to clarify why that black foam stuff isn't that good. I hope one day we won't see it in any kind of studio. I don't know why people still sell it for that purpose and why people still buy it. Because honestly, if you look at any kind of professional studio, and I'm talking like multi-million-dollar pro studio, you will never see that stuff anywhere. Like maybe they put it underneath a rack to make sure it doesn't vibrate, but you will never see it on the wall. Usually they all have rock wool behind a frame and covered either with drywall or covered with fabric. And that's pretty much it. That's the professional way to actually do it. So thanks a lot for watching. Again, all other information how to build these kind of things is linked down below. The video where you showcase your studios is also linked down below. And we'll see us tomorrow back again here in the studio. For me, it's now time to just make a lot of music, finish up some tracks, and some business stuff, as always. Thanks a lot for watching. Sign out.